I want to start by commending the convener, Mr. Olushola Kish. You will agree with me that this is not just a summit or an event, it's a master class, an executive master class. Because I particularly have learned so much from the speakers, from the founder of Boomplay, to Banky, to Madam Isiche, and the last Honorable Biodun. So it's really an honor to be here. In business, it's always good to have a side hustle. The relevance of it cannot be overemphasized. The topic today is going to be relevant to all startups, entrepreneurs, business owners, whether you're in paid employment. Because my story started after I was called to the bar. Reality dawned on me. I started job hunting because of the high rate of unemployment in Nigeria. So I visited the Ministry of Justice, Lagos State, and volunteered to work for free as a lawyer. They accepted me. I started providing excellent legal services. I was diligent. That the director of the Ministry of Justice Public Advice Center now referred me to a judge where I became the judicial assistant to the judge. So I'm a mother with 4 kids. So while working with this judge, I built my career path around her because she's a renowned judge. I believe that if I'm diligent, just the way I was in my previous job, she's going to recommend me and refer me to a bigger job, and she's going to guide me. Eventuality happened. I took in for my 3rd child. Then after my maternity leave, I wasn't called back. So I was disappointed, but I didn't dwell on that. I started looking inward. What can I do? What value can I offer? What are the problems Nigerian youths are facing? Like I said, because of high unemployment rate, so many Nigerian youths were becoming business owners, entrepreneurs, and they were not guided. I decided to be guiding them, providing value-adding legal services, providing structure in place. You can imagine, I started on Instagram. I created an account. That was 2019, early 2019. I started giving out free knowledge sharing. The networking started. In a small space in my sitting room, within 1 year, I made my first 7 million naira. And it was because I had value and I have a viable idea. And aside that, from then to now, I've moved from where my small space, I now have an office, and from job hunting, I'm now an employer of labor. So the summary of it is, in whatever you're doing, you should have a side hustle, because eventuality can happen. And if it happens, you wouldn't be taken unawares. So, how do you build a formidable business structure? Like a young man said, that right now what he's looking for is funds, capital, to build his business. I started with no naira, and you see what I've been able to achieve, and we are still on the journey. So in building a formidable business structure, you must have a viable idea, and your idea must be bankable. And if it's bankable, and with the relevant business structure and legal structure in place, you will excel, you become successful, and you build a profitable brand. Young entrepreneurs do not understand the value of legal services because at that stage, they are trying to source for funds. The last thing on their mind is investing in legal compliance. So in my topic, I will help you understand why you should invest in legal compliance and take legal compliance seriously. It protects you from costly mistakes and you avoid legal problems. What do I mean by that? A good example is what is happening now. You know, a creative, a very talented young man, Barry Tiger, he was my client. He used to be my client. We are still working together. So, because he was underage, but he has the talent, he was engaged by a manager. You remember that an underage cannot go into a contract. So he must have a guardian. And he had a manager managing him. I did their contracts and all that. But the unfortunate thing that happened now is he went into a partnership, a collaboration with another artist or a comedian that is a promoter. His name is Kata Efe, you know. So they came together. They didn't envision that they're going to release a hit song in Nigeria. And they did everything just casually. And next thing, it was a hit song. You know what entertainment is worth billions of dollars now in Nigeria. So issues arose, legal issues. What percentage am I going to? You don't call me for shows? The young man who is talented said, I wrote the music, I wrote the song, I'm a songwriter, I did everything. You called me, you have the platform, you promoted the work. Now you're going for shows and you're not carrying me along. Then confusion everywhere because there was no legal structure in place. A simple agreement would have solved all this. Another example is a client that I have, very committed, industrious, and very hardworking and rich woman. She has a shop at Trade Fair. She produces cosmetics. As a producer, I did her incorporation with the Corporate Affairs Commission. We did her trademark. We did her NAFDAC. She was selling, making millions. She engaged a German company to work on her packaging of her product because she's realized, okay, lawyer, we've done everything, we've done this, we've done that. She engaged a German company to handle the packaging of her products. Very beautiful packaging. And a competitor in that same market stole the concept. And this is something that took her a year. And whenever I'm speaking to her, I said, Lord, I've really invested a lot. You know, I've done this, I've done that, so let's leave that one. The competitor went and used her exact packaging and started supplying. And her customers were diverting. Instead of coming to her, they were now going to her competitor. She became alarmed. What is happening? This is my brand property, it's my property. I know the company I engaged abroad. Nobody has this design. I've done everything. I've done my NAFDAC. I've done my trademark. What is happening? I said, there is something you've not done. Have you protected do you have the industrial design protection? Let's do this immediately. Then we'll file an action against that competitor for maliciously, because it's just clear that it was a malicious attempt. So we swung into action, took the product, the branding to Abuja, Ministry of Trade and Investment. Lo and behold, that competitor, last a week to when we were doing our this thing, he has registered this woman became devastated. My personal assistant is here. He knows what we went through during that period. And it was very emotional for me because I know how hardworking this woman is, how she has started and everything. So in legal protection, it has to be all round. Any lacuna can give another competitor or party a chance to take advantage and disrupt your business or whatever you engage in. That is one of the values of legal services and legal obligation. I also want you to know that when we say legal obligation, it's not optional, it's mandatory. But because we don't have a system that works here in our country, so many people are getting away with it. But the disadvantage is a lot. That is why our judicial system is not something, forgive me, it's not really something to write home about. Leonard Coley, please. But our judicial system is poor. This time is a global village. We have to take advantage to educate people more, prevent them from problems, so that they don't make these mistakes and then they can't easily access justice. You take a case to court, the case is dragging over a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's very discouraging. It's now like the last hope of the common man is gone. So the essence of this is to prevent this costly mistake. Prevention is better than cure, right? Another advantage is that it improves operation and safety. We all know what happened in our country, in this Lagos, the almighty Ikoyi building collapse. May the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Just because of negligence of regulators, government agency, and the architects, the engineers, and all those people working there. That was how lives of young Nigerians, enterprising, hardworking people were stolen from them. And some of this negligence in this not being legally compliant, what it causes can be an irredeemable loss, just like death. If the engineers obtained the relevant license at every stage of building, and if the government officials were diligent and not compromising in the supervision of that building, the people that lost their life would have been alive, working hard to make a good means of livelihood for their family. So we can't keep saying Nigeria happened to us. There is hope, and the hope is you and I. We are the future. The future is here. We are leaders. We are like minds. It helps in better branding and public relations. So many people are all after branding, marketing. Is excellent. It's good to market your brand. Of course, if I wasn't marketing my brand, I wouldn't get customers. If I wasn't putting out being visible, I won't get good customers that believe in me. And it's something you have to take advantage of. Like I said, I started from Instagram. And I will share, just yesterday, a client I've not seen sent me over 1 million naira to provide legal service. And it's very shocking. Why? Because I'm visible. 2, because I'm trustworthy. So in building your brand, you should be trustworthy. If people pay you for a quality product, go overhead and give them quality product. If they pay you to build a website or provide any service, do it exceptional. It's not all about the one you're going to get that day or immediately. It's about the recommendation. This client I said yesterday, I've not seen her. Someone recommended her because that person was satisfied with the service. So even if I'm talking about success and all that, one thing is in common. Ability to be committed, hardworking, diligent, providing value, trustworthy. All the good values and characters must be in place to be successful. So in branding, people go about doing branding, publishing their company names and all that. Do you have the exclusive protection of your brand name? Is it for you? Or are you building a brand for another person? And people are so mean. The heart of man is wicked. They are waiting for you to go global. Immediately you go global, they've already gone behind you to protect it, and then you will now start rebranding. Whether you're an artist, whether you're a songwriter, whether you're a creative. Okay, just like Buju. Before everybody knew him as Buju, next thing, he has changed his brand name because he was waiting to go global before the protection. But the protection should come as the idea is coming out, so that by the time they are coming, you're fully protected. They can't penetrate from any side. So branding is important, but ensure that in your marketing and in your visibility, you're duly protected. Your higher employee retention. Every employee wants to feel safe, wants to feel that there is a future in this company. If you have all your legal structure in place, you follow the laws guiding employer and employee relationship, you will have lasting employers. If you pay your relevant, though right now I said I'm not going to talk about tax, because the Finance Bill Act of 2020 exonerated so many of us here that falls in that category. If your annual revenue is not up to 25 million, you shouldn't be thinking about tax. The government should handle that, but you should have your protection. If you form your business as a sole proprietor, it's good you have the protection of that name. It can give you the ability to even open a corporate bank account with that name. But then, you can't transfer your ownership to anybody except you have a will. And it doesn't give you perpetual continuity. And the death of one person is not the death of the business. That's why you hear about global companies like Coca-Cola that have lived, they've stayed up to over 100 years. Thank you. And Madam Isiche mentioned one company, the popular Ghana High, that they were not able to sustain their trade secrets and all that because of lack of structure. So if you start up your business as a business sole proprietor, you enjoy some benefits of commencing your business, right, structuring the name, having a corporate bank account. But then when you're thinking about attracting investors, building a brand that will live after you, building legacy, then you start thinking of upgrading it from that business name to a limited liability company. Yes, and if you have enough the capital, you can just go ahead in the structure and ensure that you have shareholders, you have directors, then you have your family, your children, that you want them to have percentage in your shares. You can assign them or allot shares to them. It's also important to know that there are some businesses that the law has given a minimum share capital, and there are businesses that the law has mandated, this is how you incorporate it. If you make the mistake of going otherwise, you shoot yourself in the foot. Just like logistic business. Logistic business became so lucrative that so many startups started having dispatch riders, delivering company and all that, but the mistake that they were incorporating it as a business name. And logistic business is prone to accident. The one benefit and huge benefit of a limited liability is that it gives you personal liability protection. In the event of any circumstance, you will not be held personally liable for any accident. What do I mean by personal liability protection? Is a scenario whereby a dispatch rider in the transfer of good, maybe good worth over 500,000 or 1 million, incurs accident or damages in the process, and the owner of the business is not able to offset the debt, the law, if sued, will come for the owner of the business personal belongings like his car, his house, his phone, whatever belongs to him, because they believe that you are your business and your business is you. There is no difference. But in a legal entity, they can't come for your personal asset. You can't hear anybody going personally for Dankote, even if he's owing or there is an accident. They will just be calling the company name. They can't go for them because they believe that the shareholders are separate. But there are occasions where the law will lift the veil of incorporation or pierce that veil of incorporation to fish out those people hiding under the umbrella of a company. And that's when there is a fraudulent activity, a criminal case done by some directors of the company, and then they want to hide under the veil of incorporation. The law will pierce it and fish them out, and they will be 100% responsible. But aside that, legal entity enjoys perpetual continuity and 100% personal liability protection. So CSC is also good to understand some implications and all that. When you incorporate a company, it doesn't end there. The law requires that every year there is something they call annual returns. Annual returns should be filed. So you prepare your mindset that even if I register my business name this year, yearly, I have to pay a particular amount of money for annual return. For business name, is very affordable. If you pay timely, you spend between 8,000 naira. For limited liability company, if you pay timely, you spend between 10,000, 15,000 naira, depending on whether the company is a small company or a big company. Annual return is not payment by a profit. The profit you've made is just a composition or stating the activities of your company. So whether or not you've started business, as long as that business is registered, you're mandated to file your annual return. So in filing of annual return, like I said, is a limited amount of money that should be paid and is required. In the event that you don't do that, do you know what the law does? They penalize you, and you wouldn't know that. They make your company inactive. And after 10 years, or after some years, they delist your company name. So many people don't know about this, and they have not been filing their annual return. At the end of the day, if you're inheriting any company, or you're an investor, you want to merge or acquire any company, you do your due diligence to know the status of this company. If this company is inactive, then you know you're inheriting debts. You're inheriting penalties. Then, and if you inherit that, the Corporate Affairs Commission will not allow you to do any alteration, such as change of director, addition of shareholder, removal of director. Whatever action you want to do in the Corporate Affairs Commission, they will ask you for the update of your annual return. So the benefits of compliance, you build a good reputation with your customer, helps you to open a business account. Now, if you want to travel outside the country for another business deal, and you say you're going for a business trip and they request for your certificate of incorporation, they conduct a search to know if it's active. If it's active, you get your visa. And so many other, in attracting loans and investments, you get that. Then incorporated trustees, if you are thinking about impacting your community, a society, association, just like Kish is doing, well done. I was here last year, I benefited a lot. And this year, I was among the sponsors. Next year, I'm going to sponsor again because the value is too much. So if you are looking at building, create an initiative of impacting your society, whether it's through education, through capacity building, through church, religious organization, the law understands that you're doing a service to humanity. So they don't tax you. You're not to pay tax. That is why they will advise that even if you want to enjoy that structure, you should fall under incorporated trustees. You know, it's only the in-house people who understand the integrity of Kish. When he asks for, okay, sponsor, and he brings his personal account, they'll be comfortable paying into that account. But if you want to position your brand, your initiative, your non-government organization to attract international funding and all that, you have to ensure that it has a legal entity, and it will be done under incorporated trustees. What is the requirement for incorporated trustees? You seek the consent of the Registrar General. Without the consent of the Registrar General, the name will not be approved. After the approval, you do a newspaper publication that will last for 28 days. So the newspaper publication is stating in the public that these are the trustees, these are the objectives. If you have any opposition or objection why they should not be allowed to engage in this activity. Speak up. If they are bankrupt, if they've committed anything to affect their integrity as to the objectives they are taking, you speak up. After 28 days, if there is no objection, then you do your notarization by the notary public and conclude your documentation. There will be a constitution, and the minutes of the meeting will be taken, notifying you that these incorporated trustees, that the law says that whatever funds you realize in the course of this project, this organization, should be put solely in the administration of the objective of this. And if you buy any landed property, if you do any record any kind of amount, it should be put back. It is not for profit making. It is not for business. It's strictly, that's why you get to see some churches and their trustees driving, or having private jets, acquiring private jets, buying luxurious cars, houses, with the funds that they are supposed to put back to the objective of the organization. The funds they are supposed to, say they are preaching the good news, reaching out to the poor, building the society. They are now using it for profit-making wealth. It is an offense. And by the time we start speaking out, this corruption will be mitigated in our country, Nigeria. So aside this business structure that it's always required that you seek the consult or the assistance of a legal practitioner. Quickly, we have intellectual property. Intellectual property is different from business name. The protection it gives is different. The Corporate Affairs Commission just gives you the right to form and do your business transaction. The Ministry of Trade and Investment gives you the protection of your brand name. For example, we all know him with Banky W. Banky is not his natural name. That's his brand name, right? So imagine someone comes up answering Banky because he has the exclusive right over that name. And how can you have the exclusive right? It's by intellectual trademark. So intellectual property is that the law realizes that there are some assets that are valuable and they are intangible. Because it's easier for you to grade the worth of your car, your bag, your building, but your intangible assets are something that are very valuable that you should commercialize and monetize and benefit from it. Like your viable idea, your creation, your innovation, your initiative. Now we have a global village. The Instagram, you have followers on Instagram. That's your brand presence. That's your intellectual, that's your property. And it's valued. So there are different protections for it. We have the trademark, we have copyright, we have patents, we have industrial design, we have the contract, the trade secrets, the passing off, the non-NDA, the non-disclosure agreement, non-circumvention agreement. Because of time, I'll just quickly run through them. So copyright gives you the protection. When you're a blogger, you're a tech innovator, tech creatives, and you're a blogger, you're a presenter, you make video content, and you put it out there in a conceptualized form. You have the protection. You should protect it under copyright, because copyright gives your literary work, your artistic work, your musical work, your software work protection. So your blog and everything. And it comes automatic as long as you know your right. Once you have this book published, you have an automatic protection of it for 70 years. Not all your lifetime. All your lifetime, you have the protection of it. Then after your death, you have 70 years after your death. Then if you want to go further to protect it, you go to the Nigerian Copyright Commission. Trademark gives you protection of your brand name, the logo, the slogan, the design, the branding. So that's why you see global brands, once you see Facebook logo, it rings a bell because they've conceptualized it, it's valuable. You can't go and imitate or become a counterfeiter with their brand name. When you see Nike, when you see McDonald's, and you make money from it because once you have this protection, you can give out franchise, which is licenses. That's where you see Domino Pizzas. The owners are not the one running it, but they have the license from the owner to use their goodwill. So intellectual property is the goodwill to use it for their marketing, and they produce they give them the terms and conditions. So when they produce or sell exactly those food products, they now pay the company some percentage based on the obligation, what the terms and conditions in their contract. So that's it for trademark. So patent has to do with an invention. And this invention must be a hardware. So you understand where it falls under. You don't take a product that is supposed to be trademarked and you start thinking it's patented. Of course, the application will be queried. So patent has to do with hardware, like this fan, an invention, like a router, yes, like Wi-Fi, and all that is an invention, is a hardware. You patent it. And the protection goes, you need to protect it before it's published. As soon as it's published, you don't have right over that. Trademark, as soon as you have your trademark protection, it gives you 7 years protection. You don't need to renew. After 7 years, you can renew 14 years. Then after that, you have it permanent. For patents, once you get the approval, you have it for 20 years. Then you can now renew. Then we have the industrial design. Industrial design has to do with fashion brands. Example, it includes other kind of products, like I mentioned earlier, the cosmetics packaging of the product. Then the fashion designers, when they make it beautiful, they create their own sketch, they make their designs. And that design is what protecting, is their intangible asset. When someone else now steals their design and starts making outfits with their design, the person is stealing their intellectual property and infringing in their rights, and they have the right to sue that person and claim damages. But then you must ensure that you have the protection. You've done the industrial protection of your design, your bag. That's where you see designer hems. The other countries, the developed countries, they understand this fact and they benefit hugely from it. Having talked about the various types of protection, we'll conclude with non-disclosure agreements. Because as a startup, you have this viable idea. How do you protect it when you're discussing it with potential business associates or investors? They want you to disclose some sensitive business information. And you know that this my idea is sensitive. If I disclose it, there is a possibility and high chance of this investor not committing and running off with my idea. You have what we call a non-disclosure agreement. This is something you can, even if you don't have a lawyer review it, through exchange of letters, you put inside the clause that this is a brand idea and you're not under any obligation to disclose it. I have the exclusive right on protection over the name. So, and I believe I've given you reasons why legal compliance, legal obligation can help sustain your brand and help you gain returns on investment. Thank you.